Hi there. It's Tuesday, August 6th, and all along here in my work, in sharing my story and all the many facets of my story, and the many ways in which I've been choosing to share it, I've been learning. I've been learning and trying to follow this higher guidance. And quite frankly, it is divine guidance. It is. This is what I am doing. I have claimed from day one in this company is well beyond me. And it's taken, again, in embarking on that without being aware of how much further I still had to go in terms of my own, in my transition. Like, I would not have guessed a year ago that I still had what ended up being almost a year still of emotional work in terms of being able to break free from the old belief patterns of my old story, which were preventing me from manifesting my new story. Because I've understood and I know how this new game works. But like I said, it's not until you begin to transition from that old story to the new story that certain belief patterns are revealed to you, and it also has to be combined with an amazing level of honesty. You have to be willing to look at yourself, remove everybody else's thoughts and feelings and opinions and judgments of you, and get to you and you. Me, myself, and I. That's who I've been with to an extent unprecedented for the past, not to an extent the past year, but really the past 3 months. Really the past 3 months. Because I was still holding on to the belief that I needed a team around me, or at least 1 or 2 other people who could see my vision and or be able to trust me enough to come along with me. And the reality was that no, this had to be, for my story, my journey, what I'm trying to do, this had to be very solo. And I've been very real with myself my entire life. I've said before, I'm incapable at any level of putting something on somebody else that was mine. That was mine. If anything, it's not even if anything, to a very large extent, I took on lots and lots of things of others that wasn't mine. And it was to an amazingly enormous detriment to myself. And learning how to take those boundaries back, and learning how to put up that wall that says, that invisible wall that says, no longer. I know what's mine, and being very real with that. And as I've moved through the transition, it's when you stumble, because I know that the only reason certain things that I desire from my life have not manifested yet, I'm the only one that can change that. It all has to do with my vibration and my energy. And it begins very generally, it always comes down to positive, negative. So I cannot, if I cannot waste any energy. I can, right? It's my choice. If I want to be upset with somebody, or if I made a decision that easily could be perceived as me being wronged by somebody else, or somebody else doing something to me, very easily. That's how we engage in the world right now. That's what's going on. That's why I say the first thing you need to do, the easiest thing, turn off the news. Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. Don't watch it. Because all that's encouraging you to do is to look at what's going on in the world and blame and put the responsibility or put the power of how you're feeling and experiencing your life in somebody else's hands. You don't, and it's amazing how much freer you will be and feel almost immediately when you just cease. When bad things happen, and bad things will. And you, to be honest, you want undesirable things to continue to take place. You probably don't want them to take place to the frequency that they are in a lot of people's lives. But that's, you can't understand and accept and revel in and in the light unless you've experienced the dark. And when you experience hard times and dark times, that is what launches what Abraham calls the rockets of desire. That's what launches all of these dreams that you have for what you want your life to be. But when you realize that it's only you, it's ultimately just you and your energy, and it always comes down to, you've got a choice. You've got a choice on what you can believe about your situation at any time. And you can stay in the negative interpretation of it and the negative energy of it for as long as you want. But when you start to learn of the truth, of the things that the world might tell you you should feel negative about, whether it's negative in the sense of worry, or negative in the sense of fear, or negative in the sense of sadness, whether, it doesn't matter what it is, because again, those emotions are very, very beneficial because we learn and we grow and we expand from them. But you never have to remain in that state for very long. You get to choose how long. And what you will understand is the longer you choose to stay in the negative energy state, the longer it will take for your desired life and the different parts of your desired life to manifest. So, as I've been going through this journey, this amazing journey this past year, I've tried to listen and respect the guidance and understand. I always have the respect for it. I've tried to listen and to be able to hear, what am I supposed to share and what am I not supposed to share? Because truth be told, right now in my life, it feels like I'm supposed to share practically everything. Now, from the old game, people might look at that and say, God, I don't want anything to do with her because she shares everything. Yeah, but you don't understand how much I appear to be sharing everything and how much I'm still not sharing. And how, even though I might be sharing everything or different things from my past up until my present, I can turn that sharing off whenever I want. I never had that level of conscious awareness of what I was sharing, why I was sharing it. I didn't understand that until just this past month. And I've had some podcasts and some videos that speak about that. Well, I find myself, so that the area that really, really was affecting me adversely for months was what to share pertaining to the darkness of my childhood and how I carried that into my adulthood all the way up until 35 years old. I struggled for most of the beginning of this year, 2013, because I did not know. Everything within me said those stories are very important to share. And I've not even shared anywhere near to the extent of those stories that I believe is still meant to be shared, because of how much I believe the sharing of those stories, specifically what was going through my mind and how I healed from it, how it affected my life, and then ultimately how I healed from it in order to help others. Okay, that is why I still believe I'm meant to share a lot more than I already have. But I knew I needed to open the door. And it took me the better part of 2.5 months to... I just kept hearing the same message within myself. Yes, you're supposed to share this. You need to open this door. And the reason why I was reluctant is because of how I knew it would make I could not protect the identity, if you will, or I couldn't protect my immediate family. I could not share my story from those times, even though I was always qualifying it by saying this is my story, my interpretation, my feelings, my experience of what happened. and trying very hard not to put anything onto specifically my parents, but my brothers as well, I could not tell those stories without speaking of my parents and my brothers. I can hide the identity and talk generally about friends, about aunts, about uncles, about cousins, about acquaintances, about experiences. No one, I mean, maybe if people, out of, the network of people that I know, maybe a handful might know if I share a particular story about whom I'm speaking, but very, very few. And I will never, ever use names unless I have permission to do so. But with my family, I could not avoid that. And I have never, ever consciously hurt anybody. I'm incapable of it. And I've said in previous videos, I wouldn't even share beliefs I held if I knew it would upset a conversation or the energy in a conversation. So I dare say I very rarely even have affected people adversely unconsciously, because of how conscious I was, always trying to be aware of everybody else's interpretations and feelings and beliefs based on what I knew of them and based on what I knew they claimed to believe for themselves or what they claimed to follow. Okay? I've used the example before. If I was in a conversation with somebody who I knew to be a Christian, I would take into consideration all of the beliefs that the Christian faith claims to believe, even though, as I learned very naively, that person, although they may claim to be a Christian and following the Christian beliefs, in their life, they really might not be actually, walking the walk. They're trying, and it's not a place of judgment. The point being in this part of my conversation is simply that I always tried to take in every bit of knowledge that I had about every person that I had about them and that I felt from them in a conversation, in a room. Often, I would take all that into consideration to the detriment of my own truth, of my own beliefs, of my own sharing of my opinions or whatnot. And I got that. I trained myself to do that because of my home situation. So, the general point I'm making in sharing those specifics is quite simply that in this past year, I have tried to know what to share, when to share it, to whom to direct it, and it's been a very, very wide audience. And it's only within the past 2 weeks that I finally have accepted I need to start speaking completely and honestly about the truth that I know and the truth that I am living, even though that is going to, I've still, believe it or not, toned it down simply because I come from a network, a very, very, very big, powerful network of amazing people, brilliant people, but rooted very strongly in the old game. And many of them already have some serious concerns about what I've done, how I've done it, and what I've shared thus far. So how would they feel if I start talking about Abraham and Bashar and about, beings that are greater than us being able to interact with us through our consciousness? And I finally had to lose that fear, and it's only happened, I dare say it's only happened in the past few days, actually. This is the first podcast I've even mentioned or anything that I've mentioned anything to the likes of what we would label extraterrestrial or these, this consciousness that exists, the vastness of life, the vastness of intelligence. It's just, I am coming at the world of living in this physical existence on earth from a very, very high level perspective. A very high level perspective. And I don't know, quite frankly, I don't know anybody in my life right now who is able to see at the same level that I'm at. And that's not a judgment. It's just what, and again, remember, I'm just coming into my new story. I'm just coming into being in a place where I've allowed the energy to come through me differently, My fear is truly, because I keep thinking I didn't have fear, but what happened in the past few days revealed to me I still did have some areas of fear. And if you've got any area of fear or worry or anxiety or guilt, those are my four, what I've identified as the real four horsemen of the apocalypse. Okay? Worry, fear, anxiety, guilt. Those are hugely blocking energies that will prevent you from being your complete self, living your complete truth. And as I say with everything, you got to fake it till you make it. While you're in the transition and you become aware of these beliefs that you hold that you don't want to hold, you got to fake it till you make it until you can actually begin to live the new beliefs. Because those old beliefs build their habits. They're habits. And you know as well as I do that habits are difficult to break. And it's not about focusing on the old, it's about focusing on the new, positive habits that you're trying to build. The rewiring of those, of your brain is the only way I can really explain it. When I went through this healing and then was introduced to Abraham, it was, in this past 2.5 years, I have rewired my brain. So, what prompted this podcast? The thing that happened this week is all pertaining to the only piece of my puzzle. There is only one piece of my puzzle right now. Now remember, it's not like I'm going to put this piece in, puzzle done, life complete, I have all the answers, no more to do, no more growing, blah, blah. No. It's constantly evolving. I will tell you that the only piece of this puzzle that I'm about to complete is the pinnacle of what my old story dream was. The pinnacle of my old story when I was, in that place of, oh my God, this would be my dream life. I have that right now, save one piece of the puzzle. And we'll see whether or not I get into that one piece description in this podcast or if I save it for another. But in the transition, in this past 2.5 years, unbelievable numbers of new dreams have been launched. Tons of new rockets of desire, as Abraham Hicks calls them. Tons and tons of new, how can it not? Everything, now that I'm living in a time and have created for my personal reality, the schedule, if you will, in my life, to be able to, every day, experience all the new things that each day brings, and to allow it to then essentially make me a slightly different person all day, every day, into the next day. I'm constantly growing because right now I'm constantly, especially right now, because there's so much to learn, so much to take in, and then as soon as I go outside my home and begin to interact with anybody else, brand new, there's more new information, more new possibilities. When you meet somebody new, when you find out that your vision aligns with somebody else, tons of new things are then launched as dreams. So this piece of the puzzle that's missing right now is just this piece. And in actuality, it's not missing. It only appears to be missing because I haven't allowed myself to energetically align with it, to vibrationally align with it. Both Abraham and Bashar speak of this, but Abraham speaks more, I have found. Now again, I'm only new to Bashar. Abraham speaks a lot, it's a lot more, she uses, or Esther translating Abraham, they use alignment in my comparison thus far, a lot more so than Bashar. Bashar is really coming at things, why I'm so fascinated with him right now, is because he's coming at things from such a scientific level, from a lot of physics, and really explaining the physics of things, especially when he gets into the time-space, continuum and how we examine things linearly, in a linear motion, in a straight line. And the reality is everything exists right now. And what we perceive to be our past and what we perceive to be a future that isn't yet taken place or manifested. It all exists right now. And he really gets into a lot more of the science and physics. And science and I never got along very well. So that, and it is on my list. It's been on my list for well over a year to take in myself and to read more books about the metaphysics and the science that is out there proving a lot of this seemingly sci-fi stuff that Bashar translates, that Abraham translates, and that I now will share along as well. And what, again, I'm actually taking and implementing almost immediately into my life. I listen to these videos and I am immediately trying to see how it can help me in my life right now. Most especially because I'm trying to align with the portion of my life that hasn't yet clicked in. And that is where, because in the old game, there is such intense emotion and very deep-rooted beliefs, because quite frankly, it's money, right? It's always money. Always comes down to money in the old game. And personally, I didn't think any belief pattern was more limiting in my old story to me than my body image and my eating disorders. And because those go back to I kind of remember first having conscious issues in fourth grade. So those go back very, very far, and I've now made peace with those issues to the point where they're certainly not limiting me in my present story. But my beliefs about money go back, because they're not only my own conscious beliefs, but what I now also hold the opinion of is that energetically I sort of inherited very, very strong beliefs from my parents regarding money. And then you throw in our situation of being in a single parent home and all of these things, and money, and I am not alone on this, right? But I have been very hesitant to speak openly and freely about both my thoughts on money, about my experiences about money, and even the huge role that money, in quotations, has played, like how I have funded what I have done up until this point. And what I have been, I guess, struggling with now for 2 months is trying to understand, how am I supposed to be talking about this? How open am I supposed to be about how I've gotten here so far? And again, the only reason to ever hesitate, I am learning. The only reason that I now hesitate to do anything, it comes back to the old habit of being concerned about what anybody else might think about what I'm doing. Because as I learned 2 days ago, when everything shifted big time for me energetically, is that all I ever need to be concerned about is the only thing that I can control, which is myself. My own knowing, my own truth, my own connection. I get to decide how I'm going to feel and how I'm going to perceive everything that I'm experiencing, and thus deciding, including the experience of what I decide to share. And I cannot let or allow what others might think about it to affect me. Or right there, it's a block. It's a block. It's an energetic block. And if there's an energetic block anywhere, it is lessening the whole person I'm capable of being in this existence. I mean, it's as simple as that. If we think of it in arbitrary, kind of like a percentage, if I'm being 100%, if everything is free flowing within me, and I am working with the universe, with the higher powers that are surrounding us, and everything is free-flowing, which is what I've been doing for most of this year, and certainly most of the past couple of months, I'm at 100% me. I'm at 100%. And the 100% me knows. I know where I'm going, man. Because I know, as Abraham says, as Pablo Picasso's quotation, that's one of many on my homepage on my website. Everything you can imagine is real. And I haven't even begun to describe to you the world that I have imagined. This immense, hugely peaceful world with all of us, instead of competing and judging and being ugly with one another, helping one another and believing in win-wins and cooperating and moving beyond money. I mean, I haven't even begun to describe to you the world that I have imagined in my head for 31 years. But I know it's real, and I know that I am creating it, and I know I'm inviting anybody and everybody who wants to become a little part of my game, right? You all got your own games going on, and we're all playing with one another with these agreements every day you interact. And I want to interact with as many others who are on this positive, peaceful way, path as possible. But the fear in our present world is preventing lots and lots and lots and lots of people who claim they want to be living happy, beautiful, wonderful, fulfilling lives where they trust people, basically anybody who is, I would say, in my opinion, anybody who's claiming to be following any religion whatsoever. If you go to the core of any religion, they are speaking, those religions are all saying the same thing, and I've boiled it down to 4 things. That we are all connected. Everything, all of existence is connected. 2, you've got to have unconditional love. That means no conditions tied to the love that you feel for others. 3, no judgment. It's not our place to judge. You cannot care if you want to create this utopia life for yourself, which is totally possible. It really is. I know how that sounds, and if you don't want to believe it, then you will continue to live a life where you're not going to be able to create it for yourself. But if you want to believe it's possible, it is. It is. But you cannot get there. You cannot create it for yourself if you're worried about judging everybody else out there who's deciding to take a different path than you. Because there is no one right path. They're all right. And as soon as you take your focus off of everybody else and just focus on the only thing that you can control, which is your own path, and more specifically, only on the positive of your path, there are no words to describe to you how tremendously different life will begin to reveal itself to you. There are no words. There are no words. And the 4th thing is surrendering. Having faith, believing. You got to believe in what you can't see. You have to believe that, yes, everything I can imagine is real already. And if I can't see it yet, it's only because energetically I'm not. It's like a radio station. Abraham always says it's like a radio station. If you're tuned to 93.3, you're not going to be able to hear what's playing on 95.7. Now, when you tune to 95.7, 93.3 is still playing. And there's plenty of people still listening to 93.3. But now you're listening to 95.7. It's all a vibration. Think of your dreams and what you want for your life as 95.7, but what you're presently living is 93.3. You've got to change the channel. And the only person that can change your channel is you. And the only way you're going to get to dreams is by focusing, the way that the universe works, because we're all connected. And because of how the energy works, it's almost like the vibrations, the positive emotions, what we've labeled as love, joy, happiness, those are higher vibrations than blame, anger, fear, worry, all of those things. So you cannot get and go to the higher vibrations by feeling this ugliness. you've got to understand that the way to get there is positivity and first and foremost, the belief that it's possible. If you don't have the belief that it's possible, well then, you're not going to get there. And see, that's where I blocked myself. That's where I've been blocking myself, is because I allowed other people's, not only their little bit of doubt about what I'm doing, but tremendous amounts of doubt, tremendous out of their love for me, tremendous amounts of worry and fear and judgment and opinion, all of these things. And because so much of my old story was external validation, and I don't think I'm alone in that either. We live in a world of external validation. And if you don't have the ability to validate for yourself and to connect to yourself, I mean, again, that's where it all begins. All of this has to begin with you reconnecting with you. That is why I say it began when I went home to Michigan to decide to heal myself, simply beginning by giving myself the opportunity to take time with me. You cannot connect to you if you're running around every day, all day, doing something, and generally we're doing all these things for people outside of ourselves. And what you have to understand is you are going to be you're limited in what you can give and contribute to others if you are not taking care of yourself first. And I can't even begin, again, with words, I can't even begin to tell you how significant even the most powerful, seemingly powerful, brilliant, people that are maintaining extremely busy schedules, taking care of tons of responsibilities. You're not even scratching the surface of what you're capable of doing, because you don't begin to see it until you start planning less. And if you're managing that many things, you've got everything planned. You've got everything planned. And I am speaking from direct experience. I am somebody who had a very busy life all the time until I stopped in Michigan. And now the power of what I'm going to be able to contribute to the world, to myself first and to the world, is going to it's already buried what anything I could have done in my old story, running around taking care of everybody else before I took care of me. So again, I didn't get to the specific piece of the puzzle, but that's okay. It's coming at a later time. All right, thanks.